A single sound breaks the silence. Then another. And another. Inside a steel cylinder nearly 70 meters below the Atlantic Ocean, 50 men stop breathing at the same time. Because everyone on board understands exactly what that sound means. An enemy destroyer has just found them. In the sonar room, a young German sailor sits completely frozen. Headphones pressed tightly against his ears. Hands shaking slightly as he listens. Another metallic pulse cuts through the water. He closes his eyes. The sound is louder now. Closer. Which means something terrifying. The destroyer above them is no longer searching. It already knows where they are. Somewhere beneath the freezing waters of the North Atlantic, a submarine crew is about to learn a brutal lesson of naval warfare. Down here, the ocean is not protection. It is a trap. And once the hunt begins, it rarely ends quickly. For nearly 6 years, the Atlantic Ocean became one of the largest battlefields in human history. This endless stretch of water was the lifeline connecting North America and Britain. Food. Fuel. Weapons. Entire armies depended on ships crossing this ocean safely. If those ships stopped arriving, Britain could collapse. And that is exactly what Germany intended. The campaign would become known as the Battle of the Atlantic. A slow, grinding war fought mostly out of sight. Cargo ships traveling in long convoys, escorted by destroyers and corvettes. And somewhere beneath the waves, German submarines waiting silently in the darkness. The hunters of the deep. The U-boats. One of these submarines was German submarine U-96. A Type 7C U-boat. 49 sailors. 1 captain. And enough torpedoes to destroy an entire convoy. On the surface, the submarine looked small compared to warships. But below the waterline, it carried something far more dangerous than size. Invisibility. When U-96 left the French port of Saint-Nazaire, the atmosphere on board was almost routine. Most of the crew had already completed several patrols. They knew the cramped bunks, the smell of diesel and oil, the endless condensation dripping from metal pipes. Life inside a submarine was uncomfortable, but familiar. At least at the beginning. Because the Atlantic always changed things. Once the coastline disappeared behind them, the crew entered a different world. Days blended together. Time lost meaning. The submarine would travel submerged during daylight hours, surfacing at night to recharge batteries and breathe fresh air. Every movement calculated. Every sound listened to carefully. Because the ocean had ears. The sonar operator was one of the most important men on the boat. His job seemed simple. Listen. But what he listened for could mean the difference between life and death. The low rumble of distant engines. The sharp echo of propellers. The faint hum of a convoy many kilometers away. Every sound told a story. Sometimes those stories ended with success. Through the narrow lens of a periscope, a convoy might appear on the horizon. Rows of cargo ships moving slowly across the sea. Perfect targets. The submarine would move quietly into position. Torpedo tubes ready. Crew silent. Then a command. Fire. Moments later, explosions on the surface. Ships breaking apart. Panic spreading through the convoy. And beneath the water, the submarine slipping away unseen. But the Atlantic was learning. By 1941, Allied navies had become much more dangerous opponents. Destroyers now carried new technology. Radar. Sonar. And something the U-boat crews feared deeply. Depth charges. These heavy explosives were dropped into the water above a submarine, set to detonate at specific depths. When they exploded, the shock waves could crush steel hulls like empty cans. Even near misses could disable a submarine completely. Which meant once a destroyer found you, the ocean itself could become your executioner. And that is exactly what was happening right now. Another sonar pulse. Closer than before. The captain of U-96 stands silently near the control room ladder. Listening. Calculating. Waiting. Around him, the crew barely moves. Even whispering feels dangerous. Because sound travels differently underwater. And the enemy destroyer above them is listening too. The sonar operator finally removes his headphones slowly. His voice is quiet. But everyone hears it. Destroyer, approaching fast. A heavy silence fills the submarine. Someone nearby mutters a short prayer. Another sailor tightens his grip on a metal pipe. The captain speaks calmly. Dive deeper. Valves open. Water floods ballast tanks. The submarine begins sliding deeper into the black Atlantic. 70 meters. 80. 90. But the sonar ping follows them. Louder. Clearer. The destroyer has matched their movement. Inside the submarine, the air feels heavier. Oxygen slowly thinning. Sweat forming despite the cold metal walls. Every man waiting for the same thing. The first explosion. It comes suddenly. A violent shock somewhere above them. The submarine shudders violently. Lights flicker. Dust falls from pipes. Depth charge. Then another. Closer this time. The hull groans under pressure. Metal bending slightly as the shockwave passes through the water. One sailor whispers something under his breath. Another grips his bunk so tightly his knuckles turn white. Because this is the terrifying reality of submarine warfare. You cannot see your enemy. You cannot fight back. All you can do is wait. And hope the next explosion is not the one that breaks the hull. The sonar pulse echoes again. Even closer. Which means the destroyer captain above them is adjusting his attack. Learning. Closing in. And the men inside U-96 suddenly understand something deeply unsettling. The destroyer captain up there is getting better at this. Another depth charge falls into the water. Spinning silently through the darkness. Inside the submarine. Someone begins counting the seconds. 1. 2. 3. 4. Imagine feeling the ocean trying to crush you alive. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every second, the water above presses harder. Every second, metal groans around you. Every second, death waits in silence. And you cannot see it. You cannot fight it. All you can do is listen. Because what you hear may be the only thing keeping you alive. Ping, ping, ping. The destroyer above them is learning their depth. Every pulse of sonar sends a message. We know where you are. The captain of U-96 stands near the ladder. The red lights flicker as the sub shudders. His hand tight on the railing. The ocean presses from every side. And he knows, one wrong move. And this steel coffin will implode. Then the first charge hits the water. Thump, thump, thump. A deafening shock vibrates through the hull. Men cry out. Some clutch the walls, some the floor. Water sprays from tiny leaks. The sub rocks violently. Ping. Another pulse. Closer. The crew counts each second between the charges. The rhythm is hypnotic. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. Boom. The explosion rocks the submarine. Everything rattles. Some men vomit from the force. Others stare blankly at the ceiling. And still the destroyer hunts. For the crew inside, there is no front line. No cover. No escape. Just metal, water, and the unrelenting pressure of the Atlantic. Then comes the terrifying sound. Not an explosion. Not a ping. A screeching, twisting metal sound from above. The hull groans in protest. A seam cracks slightly. For a split second, they all imagine the water crushing the sub like paper. The captain shouts orders. Ballast tanks, full dive. Silent running. Engine, minimum. The submarine responds sluggishly. The men cannot see it, but the water itself seems alive, pushing against every plate of steel. Ping, ping, ping. Closer now. The destroyer knows exactly where they are. The captain clenches his teeth. Inside, the crew whispers short prayers. One man mutters, "If this is it, tell my wife." Shockwaves rock the vessel. The submarine rolls to one side. Metal bends. Water leaks into compartments. Lights flicker. The crew grips anything solid. Some pray. Some stare at the blinking sonar, counting seconds like life itself depends on it. Because it does. Hours pass like minutes. Or minutes like hours. The Atlantic shows no mercy. The destroyer above them moves systematically. Each depth charge pattern precise. The sub tries to change depth. Change course. Move silently. The ocean presses. The metal bends. The crew prays to survive another minute. Time slows down in these moments. Each heartbeat louder than the previous. Each creak of steel sounding like the last warning. The ocean is not a battlefield here. It is a predator. And the destroyer is its hunter. Ping, boom, ping. One explosion rattles a bulkhead so violently it cracks a pipe. Water sprays. Electrical sparks fly. The crew gasps. Some fall to their knees. The captain shouts. Damage control teams, report. Voices call out, trembling. Minor leaks in one compartment. Battery compartment flooding slightly. The sub continues to descend. Silence now mandatory. No one speaks above a whisper. No lights except emergency reds. Every second outside, the destroyer calculates their depth, speed, and heading. And inside, 50 men do everything possible to become invisible. One sailor mutters, almost to himself. If they find us now, it's over. The captain responds softly, almost under his breath. Not yet. Because in submarine warfare, hope is often the only weapon. Another depth charge explodes nearby. The hull bends dangerously. A hatch rattles. One sailor falls to the floor. Breathing becomes difficult. Then something changes. Ping, ping, ping. The sonar pulses become irregular. The destroyer is repositioning. The crew realizes they are not being destroyed immediately. The hunter is adjusting. Learning. Waiting. For a few terrifying minutes, nothing happens. Then a faint sound, not of the destroyer, but a bubble of air escaping the ballast tank. Small. Almost imperceptible. But in the dead silence, it screams. The sub is damaged. Still alive, but barely. The captain makes a decision. Silent running. Maximum depth. Engines, minimum. Prepare for emergency surfacing if necessary. The crew moves like trained shadows. Hands never leaving metal. Eyes fixed on instruments. The Atlantic outside seems endless. Black. Merciless. And above, the destroyer continues its hunt. One sailor whispers again. I can't feel my hands. And in that silence, another realization strikes them all. Even if the submarine survives this attack, some of them may never breathe normal air again. Some may never see daylight. Some may never forgive themselves for what survival forces a man to do in these hours. Ping, boom, ping. The hunter has not left. And the hunted must endure. Then, in the darkness, a new sound appears. Not from the destroyer. Not from the water. A distant, muffled sound of engines. Other ships? Or something else, waiting to finish them off? The crew tenses. The captain whispers. Hold your positions. Wait for orders. Each man listens to the water. Each man waits for the next explosion. Each man prays for a miracle. Because in the North Atlantic, miracles are rare. And sometimes, silence itself is the deadliest sound of all. Imagine the walls around you bending. Not metaphorically. Steel groaning under pressure. Water pressing from all sides. And somewhere above, a destroyer hunting you like a shark. This is the moment 50 men have been waiting for, and dreading. The moment when survival is no longer a choice, it's a decision every second. Ping, ping, ping. Closer than ever. Each pulse a heartbeat louder than your own. Each wave a warning, we know where you are. The captain's hands grip the railing so tightly his knuckles turn white. He knows one wrong move could twist this metal coffin into a tomb. The U-boat is near maximum depth. The ocean around them is a solid, black wall. The destroyer above adjusts its position, releasing another depth charge. Thump, boom, thump. Shock waves travel through every plate of steel. Some men cry out. Some vomit. Some lie silent, holding their breath, waiting for death. In moments like these, time stretches. Minutes become hours. Hours become eternity. A single thought occupies every mind. Will we live? Or will the ocean finally have its revenge? Suddenly, the hull creaks louder than ever. A pipe bursts in the control room. Water sprays into electrical equipment. Alarm bells ring. The captain issues orders calmly, almost whispering. Silent running. Depth control. Ballast tanks, full. Damage teams, report. Voices respond with clipped, trembling reports. A minor leak here. A flooding compartment there. Nothing catastrophic, yet. Every man understands the unspoken truth. They are not fighting the destroyer. They are fighting the Atlantic itself. Every pulse of water, every creak of metal is a reminder. If the hull fails, it will not matter what torpedoes or strategies they have left. The destroyer continues its relentless hunt. Its sonar pulses deafening in the minds of those below. The crew can hear the faint scraping of depth charges through the water. The U-boat rocks violently with each explosion. Ping, ping, ping. A particularly close depth charge causes a bulkhead to shudder. The lights flicker. Water sprays from leaks in the hull. A sailor whispers, almost inaudibly. I think, this is it. This is the point where fear becomes tangible. Where the mind begins to fracture under pressure. Where courage and terror occupy the same body. Where every decision matters more than 1,000 guns. The captain considers surfacing. But he knows the risk, the destroyer above would finish them instantly. Yet staying submerged could crush the hull entirely. Every second that passes, the submarine bends closer to its breaking point. Ping, boom. Another depth charge. The vessel rocks. A hatch rattles violently. The crew braces themselves. They feel the weight of the Atlantic pushing against them. And somewhere in that immense pressure, a strange calm arrives. Because now, the only option is to act. The captain issues orders for a slow maneuver, descending deeper into an underwater canyon. The ocean floor is still hundreds of meters below. The pressure is suffocating. The crew feels every pulse of water like it is alive, probing, threatening. The men realize something. They are not only fighting the enemy. They are fighting instinct itself. The instinct to scream, to move, to run, to survive. But in a submarine, movement can kill. Even breathing too loudly could betray them. Another depth charge explodes. This time, closer than ever. The hull shudders violently. Metal groans. A bolt snaps somewhere in the control room. One sailor mutters, "If we survive this, we are already dead inside." The captain glances at him, expression unreadable. No one speaks for the next long, unbearable minutes. Ping, ping, ping. The sonar pulses are now erratic. The destroyer is repositioning. Perhaps it senses something. Perhaps it is just learning. Either way, the tension is unbearable. Hours pass. Minutes blur. Every man on board feels the Atlantic pressing against their chest. The cold, darkness, pressure, and fear merge into one heavy weight. No one knows if they will live. No one knows if they will breathe fresh air again. All they know is this moment. Then something unexpected happens. A distant engine hum reaches their ears. Not the destroyer. Not the U-boat. Something else. A convoy? Another hunter? Or simply fate itself, creeping closer? The captain whispers. "Hold, wait, let them come." Every man stiffens. The Atlantic holds its breath. The destroyer above maneuvers with precision. Depth charges continue to fall. The minutes stretch. The pressure builds. The ocean groans. And suddenly, every man on U-96 realizes something. Survival will require more than skill. It will require every ounce of courage, fear, and calculation they possess. Ping! The destroyer is closing in. Every pulse of water feels like a heartbeat. Every creak of metal a warning. And in that suffocating, relentless darkness, they understand one truth. The Atlantic does not care about skill. It does not care about courage. It does not care about men. It only tests them. And tonight, it will test them beyond everything they have ever known. Ping, boom. The first thing they heard was silence. Not peaceful silence. The kind of silence that smells like metal and salt, thick enough to choke. Hours had passed. Days, maybe. Time had no meaning. And now, the Atlantic waited. Waiting to see if 50 men inside a steel cylinder would live, or become part of its depths. The captain made a decision. The U-96 would surface. Not because the destroyer had stopped hunting. Because staying submerged would crush them all. They would gamble everything on visibility, speed, and luck. Every man on board felt it. The tension in the air was almost solid. The kind of tension that twists your stomach, sharpens your hearing, and freezes your breath. Even the seasoned sailors, men who had survived months of patrols, felt it. The submarine broke the surface quietly. Only the captain knew how close they were to disaster. Every shadow on the horizon could be a destroyer. Every flicker in the water could be death. Then they saw them. Allies. Friendly destroyers escorting another convoy. Not a single gun fired at them. Not yet. Relief swept over the crew, but it was fragile. Because after days of darkness, explosions, and fear, the mind doesn't recover immediately. Some men began crying quietly. Some laughed, nervously, to keep panic from swallowing them. Some stared blankly at the endless water, unable to move. And all of them knew, nothing would ever feel the same again. The Atlantic had tested them. Relentlessly. And they had survived. But survival came at a cost no one could measure. The captain walked the deck slowly. Hands gripping the railing. Thinking of the men who didn't make it. The ones crushed by pressure, swallowed by fear, or lost to rash decisions. War leaves a shadow long after the battle's end. The engines had been damaged. The hull had leaks. The nerves of every man aboard were stretched to breaking. Yet the submarine still floated. Still carried them forward. Still allowed them to breathe fresh air. For now. The Atlantic around them was calm at last. The storm of depth charges, sonar pings, and suffocating pressure was over. For now. But each man aboard U-96 knew the truth. Even if they reached port, even if they survived the war, they had faced something that would never leave them. Something invisible. Some men would never speak of it. Others would tell stories for decades. All of them carried a single memory, the moment they realized that survival was not victory. It was just a pause between battles. A fragile pause, measured in breaths. And when the U-96 finally reached the safety of a French harbor, the men climbed out. The Atlantic behind them seemed almost gentle. Deceptive in its calm. Some laughed. Some collapsed. Some just stared, unable to move. No medals, no cheers, no grand welcome could erase the hours they had spent trapped beneath its weight. War is measured in battles. But the cost, the true cost, is measured in moments like this. Moments when men face death without warning. Moments when courage is the only thing separating you from the ocean's cold embrace. Moments that never leave you. And somewhere beneath the waves, the Atlantic waits. Waiting for the next U-boat. The next convoy. The next man who will hear the ping, 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 and realize that survival is never certain. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to help us remember and share stories from the front lines. Stories from the past help us understand humanity in difficult times. Share your thoughts in the comments, every memory matters.